I'll go one step further. What Sussan Ley should do is have a media conference on Saturday so that it ends up in the Sunday papers. And she says that none of her colleagues, none of them, will accept any family reunion costs on airfares from today. No more. We're not going to do it. If we want our spouses to come to visit us or see us in Canberra or when we're working in Sydney or Melbourne, they can pay to come. If she did that, she would go a long way to getting the public on her side. Why not do that?
But imagine the impact and how powerful that would be. But I think you and I and most of our viewers and every hardworking Australian taxpayer out there know the answer to that, Steve, and that is that this is a racket that both sides of politics and indeed our independents and Green members we've seen the revelations unfold over the last week that they enjoy. So this is like getting the turkeys to vote for Christmas, right? And I think it's going to take someone with real courage of conviction and spine to admit, firstly, that reform needs to occur. So I'm glad to see that Sussan Ley has taken that step. But I note that when she spoke to my colleague over at 2GB yesterday, Mark Levy, she really shied away from being able to firmly put her name and the coalition's name to an attempt at the very least to say that we would look at abolishing this. So she hasn't committed to that just yet. I think this may be the first step towards that. And it's cornering the Prime Minister, right? Let's be clear. It's putting him in a scenario where he either has to completely say no to this or he has to go down the path of reform. I know that he's distanced himself very much from even being able to say, right, that this is something that needs looking at. But all he's done is pass the football on and put all of the blame on IPEA, the Independent Parliamentary Expenses Authority. When what we do know is that IPEA are the body, the so-called independent body that are enforcing the rules, right? The government create these guidelines. So if the Prime Minister is sitting there and arrogantly saying, firstly, that, well, this is within the guidelines, and secondly, that, you know, this is something that we keep at arm's length because it's handled by IPEA and has been since 2017, we've got two problems. Your guidelines are an issue, and you too, as the Prime Minister, are acting pretty spinelessly if you can't admit that this is a problem. And why should Annika Wells survive this, right? We've seen what's occurred historically with both Bronwyn Bishop and the opposition leader now. Back then when she was in her role under the Turnbull government, had to resign after her own debacle. Neither of those women were found guilty of any wrongdoing. And in fact, both apologised, and Bronwyn Bishop also paid that money back. So why should this be any different for Annika Wells? Because this has been a public relations disaster for not just her, but for the Labor Party and also more broadly politicians as well. The racket has to be up.